Hey guys, today I'm on site and I'm going to be showing you how we install the door. So here we've got a pre-hung door sitting on a jamb with a removable stop. I'm also going to show you how we allow for certain things like spacing off the floor and how we get them to be sitting in such a way that they never swing and that they have a nice crisp reveal all the way around. So here's some of the stuff that I would be using for door hanging typically. So we got a 6-foot level bucket of shims, a 15 gauge nail gun, and a screw gun. I've got a drill bit in here because I'm going to be pre-drilling the holes. These poplar jambs have a tendency to crack a little more easily than the softer fir or SPF joints that jambs that we see a lot of the time. So I just like to get preventative with that, drill the holes first before I do the screwing. I also carry a pocket full of trim head screws pretty much all the time. We find that these work really well for installing doors, and with the smaller head, even if you're putting it in an area that it is exposed, you're going to be able to fill that quite easily. So here we have this door here, and it's got quite a larger space against the floor, but the first thing you want to do is make sure that when you're installing the door, you allow for whatever flooring surfaces are going to be installed in that area. So this is a tile bathroom, and then up to it is going to be either a hardwood surface. I believe it's a hardwood surface. Sometimes it's carpet in the bedrooms, and so you have to be aware of that when you're making allowances for install. So this one I decided that I was comfortable with a larger reveal. Sometimes they want you to have a smaller gap between the door and the floor, maybe 1/2 inch or 3/8, and that's something to take into account. The other factor with that is that oftentimes you have to try and make all the doors in the room line up, especially if they're close by each other, and so often we will bring up the level of the laser to do that. So typically how this process works when we're installing a pre-hung door is we'll bring the door into the opening and sit it at 90 degrees. So I've got the jamb in the opening and the door sitting out like this. And then what I do is I nail each of the 4 corners of the 15 gauge count, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the door will sit there in place, and I can swing the door as needed. So I'm able to maneuver it back and forth. And then I can get my level out, check for plumb both ways. And once I've got a pretty good feel for where it's going to sit, I can start shimming all around the outside of the door jamb, as you'll see in this next part here. Once all of that is good, I've got it plumb both ways and the reveal is quite nice. Then I put screws in just above or just below each set of shims, and what I like to do is make sure that there's shims behind every hinge, shim at the top, and then every couple feet put throughout the rest of the way. usually we have a stop that's permanent on these doors, but on these ones they're removable, so there will be a stop that will go in here and that the door will hit against. But the nice thing is when they're removable like this, we can hide all our nail holes and screws in there, and that way we have a nice clean finish after the fact. All we have to do after this is cut those stops to the finished floor and tack them in with a small pin nailer. So it's also important to be thinking about what you're going to be doing next. So after we're done hanging this door, we're going to be casing it. And so it's in our best interest to make sure that the door jamb itself is centered on the rough opening. Now, a lot of the time, the framing won't be exactly straight. So if it's out of plumb by 1/4 inch from this side to this side, we like to split the difference and have the jamb in the middle. Also, I like to make sure that whenever possible, I'll put the top centered on the wall and leave the bottom leg of the jamb sticking out on either side to get to plumb. Because what that means is that when I go to do the casing, I'll have an easier time, because if we've got mitered casing coming up to the corner there and you have to deal with that by planing the back out of it or whatever to make it work, it just makes it that much more challenging. Whereas if you make that flush, then that makes that part easier, and you only have to plane out the back side of a little bit of the leg of the casing, where it's often a lot less visible than the corners as well. So another thing I'm doing on this door, because it's got quite a wide jamb, we're talking 8 or 9 inches here across, with my screws on one side, it's going to tend to want to suck it in and create a bit of a kick on the outside wing of these jambs, and or have them a bit loose. So I've shimmed off the back side as well to keep that perfectly straight and square, so that there's no binding of any sort, and that when the casing goes on there, it's nice and straight to the eye from the other side as well. Another thing I've done is put the screw at the very bottom and the nail at the very bottom of either side, and this is to keep the bottom of this jamb square and straight and not moving, so that when I install the flint block and casing, nothing moves around there, and I have a nice solid install when those pieces go in. Because oftentimes we have the baseboard create pressure against the flint block. We don't want anything moving around. We want to stay nice and sturdy and strong. And so that's a finished door. It swings both ways. If you push it, it doesn't keep swinging. It stops where it is. That's what we want to see. We also want to see there's a very consistent reveal along here all the way around, and then it's flush when it hits the strike side over here. It's a little trickier when the doors don't have the stops, because we're going to put those in after the fact. But it is really nice because all those screws and nail holes get hidden in there. That's how we want to keep it. So now that I've got it all finished, all I have to do is buzz off these shims